Have you noticed that superheroes don't look the way they used to? It wasn't long ago that they seemed like they wanted to be our friends, our supporters. They could even be touchingly imperfect.
Hi, Freeze. I'm Batman.
But now, they seem more super than human. This has changed thanks to one man, Zack Snyder. He's made a lot of very popular films, but a lot of people don't like them and seem to struggle to explain exactly why. They say his work is too macho, too humorless.
Have a bad history with freaks dressed like clowns.
And too voyeuristic. But I think there's a deeper underlying reason. His films engage with a primal part of human nature that makes a lot of us uncomfortable, our desire for order and the thrill of being overawed. Snyder's superheroes aren't interested in saving the day. They're our superiors, objects of worship. Zack Snyder draws on Leni Riefenstahl's films, which were instrumental tools in building the all-powerful image and myth of the Third Reich. She was Hitler's favourite filmmaker. And in works like Olympia, she defined the Aryans' perfect bodies and reflected the Nazi fantasy of the Übermensch, a new race of eugenically refined heroes and godmen. And in contrast to the teeming masses, Hitler himself was accorded a demigod-like status in Riefenstahl's frame. The writer Susan Sontag said about Riefenstahl's filmmaking style and fascist filmmaking in general, its choreography alternates between ceaseless motion and a congealed, static, virile posing. Fascist art glorifies surrender, it exalts mindlessness, it glamorizes death. Ceaseless motion and virile posing sounds a lot like what cinematographers today call speed ramping, and that's Snyder's signature move. It's how he immerses you in a moment of spectacle while severing any kind of normal emotional attachment to it. It's a technique that leaves you simultaneously isolated and transfixed. Even Marvel Studios' superhero films, which are often set in light-hearted opposition to Snyder's darker work, owe him a serious stylistic debt. Ceaseless motion, congealed, static, virile posing. Snyder's fascistic way of looking at his heroes is one reason his adaptation of Watchmen left me cold. While Alan Moore's original graphic novel was a satirical deconstruction of lone vigilantes in fetish gear, Snyder's version didn't seem to share its reservations. For years, because of those historical associations, this visual style was seen as sleazy and corrupt. Before Snyder, one of the few Hollywood directors to embrace it was John Milius, a self-described Zen fascist and right-wing extremist, whose Conan the Barbarian turned Arnold Schwarzenegger into the greatest Übermensch Hollywood had ever seen. But what was disreputable in the 1980s, Snyder brought into the mainstream with a blockbuster budget. He once talked about his mother giving him a copy of the erotic science fiction magazine Heavy Metal, believing it was an innocent comic book. He thought it was, quote, the most awesome thing ever. And you can see its influence in his work 30 years later. It's ironic that while the DC franchise Snyder birthed has kept struggling to find its feet, the look he pioneered has taken over, and there's not that much we puny mortals can do.